Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Monday, the 11th of November, and Rangers had a winning weekend, but there is a lot to digest after another laboured performance. I'm joined by a full squad. Joshua Barry, first of all. How's it going, Joshua?
Good. Looking forward to talking about this game again.
Yeah, I bet you are. Chris Jack also joins us. How's it going, Chris?
Equally as enthusiastic.
Yeah, it was a bit of a tough watch yesterday, wasn't it? Rangers, a poor performance against Hearts. They got the 3 points. Cyril Dessers netting goal number 10 for the season after just 6 minutes. Rangers started brightly. You're thinking, good stuff. Let's carry this on, get a few more goals. It wasn't to be. Ever since the goal, Rangers looked nervy. Hearts missing a couple of gilt-edged opportunities through Kenneth Vargas, and Rangers hanging on as they have done for much of this season at the end. Very nervy indeed. The fans paid good money to go and watch Rangers at Ibrox again. They're not really being entertained at this moment in time. It was a pretty howling performance, Joshua. 3 points and up the road. How many times have we said that this season? But Chris, we'll come to you first of all. It's just that I don't know what to say. I know you were on with Joshua yesterday after the game. There's not a lot to shout about with regards to Rangers right now, is there? Again, not entertaining. Get the job done. I think a better team than Hearts would have gotten something out of that game yesterday.
I think people were just relieved that it was over. One, because the final whistle meant that Hearts couldn't equalise, and two, the final whistle went and meant. Sorry, easy for me to say first.
Nicely done.
It meant that they could then go home and they didn't have to watch it anymore, because it was largely dreadful. It was not good at all. Myself and Josh spoke on the video last night about the first 6 minutes and the goal, and that was all good. Rangers really nice move, finished it off. Dessers get these goal, and as you said there, Derek, that should have been the moment that they then go and kick on. After that, created very, very little. Never looked like moving the ball that quickly again, and they were just so flat, so out of ideas, so quickly, so easy to play against once again. And as you touched on, I think a better team than Hearts come away, not even just with a point, a better team than Hearts come away with 3 points yesterday. The chance in the first half, the mistake from John Souttar, Jack Butland as well to deny Vargas. The Vargas chance at the start of the second half, 9 times out of 10 that goes in, and if it does at that stage, that soon after half time, we all know what Ibrox is like after that. That asks very different questions of these players. That asks big questions of their mentality. Are they able to handle that? I think no is probably the answer. Ibrox becomes in a very, very difficult place for Rangers to play in, and if that goal had gone in, you would have backed Hearts to go on and win the game rather than Rangers to come back and go on and win the game. They got away with it. Yes, it's 3 points and it's another win on the board, but there's not a lot of positives there. Not a lot of things for Rangers to say. That's getting better, and it will get better in time. It's the same concerns, the same phases of play, the same narrow, scrappy results that have been on show for most of the season. Rangers aren't getting any better, unfortunately.
Yeah, the same scrappy, narrow results. Joshua, you've got a piece coming out on the website later on today. Why can Rangers not kill teams off?
Because they're not creating enough chances, basically. Like if you look at yesterday's game, so Rangers have played 11 games in the Premiership, and they've won 7 of them. 5 of them have been by a 1-goal margin. The only 2 games that haven't been by a 1-goal margin was a 2-0 win at home over St Johnstone, and if memory serves me, although Rangers went down, I think they went down to 10 men in that game, didn't they? Yeah, it was Yanis Hadji was sent off. But St Johnstone had a good couple of chances in the final few minutes that should have probably made that game a bit more nervy. They had that moment where they didn't cut the ball back from close range. The only other game where Rangers have won really comfortably was the 6-0 win over Ross County, but that's been people can see this in the piece if they want to slightly later on this morning, Derek, but it's been a real outlier. And if you look at the goals Rangers are scoring, they're slightly underperforming their expected goals, but they're just not creating enough opportunities. And the difference between the chances they're conceding and the chances they're creating is about one, roughly. I think the expected goals difference, so again, that's just the chances they've created minus the chances they've conceded, is 0.8. It feels like a slim margin because it is. If you take yesterday's game in isolation, the overall expected goals was, I think, 1.8 to roughly about 0.65 for Hearts. So Rangers, yes, I think that 70% of the time they win that game on the basis of chances created. However, about almost one of that expected goals comes from the two moments that lead to the goal, the James Tavernier shot and the Cyril Dessers shot. And then the Rangers' next two best chances arrived in the 89th and the 90th minute. Danilo had an opportunity, and then Casemiro will hit the bar from that cross. Between that, they largely created nothing. All the chances were a really, really low value. So I think what's under the bonnet is what the eye kind of sees at the moment, Derek. And I know there was a lot of stuff going around Twitter last night about the fact that Rangers have scored fewer goals than St Mirren, Dundee United, Dundee, same amount as St Johnstone. Should be said that St Mirren, I think, have played 2 more games than Rangers. Dundee and Dundee United 1 more. They've still scored 2 more goals. They haven't played one more match. And as I say, only on 2 occasions in 11 games have Rangers won by more than a 1-goal margin. So similar to what Chris is saying, I think Clement yesterday was frustrated for a lot of reasons, but largely because the first goal was actually a really well-worked move. Rangers played at a good tempo from front to back. Hearts rarely pressed them, though. They really rarely committed players to the top end of the pitch. And as a result of that, Rangers didn't have the spaces to play within, and as a result of that, they weren't able to fashion many opportunities. They're a better team playing into space, but in the second half, everything felt very, very disconnected. You see the goal, I think Chris and I spoke about this yesterday, but the third goal Rangers scored against Bucharest was the Václav Černý goal. Rangers are 2-0 up, they get pressure on a goal kick, and it's a really nice team-wide move. It goes from kind of back to front, inside to out. You just don't see that type of teams aren't that aggressive domestically. The requirement is so different, and I think time and time again this season so far, I know you and Adam spoke about it after the Aberdeen game, Rangers just are not creating a high enough chance value to go and win games comfortably. And that's why yesterday, although yes, you could say apart from that Vargas chance at the start of the second half and maybe the enforced error where Suter plays the ball short back to Butland, although Hearts didn't have an abundance of opportunities late on, it's another game where it's so nervy because you're a mistake or a slip or just one moment away from dropping points because that margin is so small at the moment.
Yeah, of those 16 goals in 11 games, 6, of course, as Joshua said, comes against Ross County. So 10 goals scored in 10 games, 2 goals scored in the away matches. It's deplorable stuff. Comments coming in here. Gary with the point says one of the poorest Rangers teams I've seen in 44 years supporting. And Kevin with the point says that listening to the commentary was boring, so God knows what it was like to watch. Yep, I was bored senseless yesterday. I was just pleased that Rangers got over the line in the end. I was just waiting for Hearts for that the punch, and they got the corner, and we're putting a bit of pressure on in the last closing stages of the match. I felt I've seen this movie many times before, but thankfully Rangers got over the line. This about being boring, Chris, is that on the manager in terms of team selection? I've got to say, when I did see the team, and I know that many others are the same, but disappointed not to see some of the players that started on Thursday start, and I wanted to see Danilo start the game, understand why Dessers started. Cannot for the life of me understand why Danilo wasn't given more minutes, but there you go. Tavernier came back in, had a poor game, was subbed again. Is part of that on the manager, do you reckon, and the personnel that he's choosing there?
I think a huge part of it is on the manager, but I would put less emphasis on the players picked. I think that there are guys like Danilo. I'm sure Yanis Hadji will come up in conversation at some point as well. There are players like that who could have started, who could have had more minutes. But that's, if you focus on Sunday, that argument comes into play. As Josh has just outlined in the numbers there, this isn't just a problem of yesterday. This is a problem for weeks and months. This is a problem of Philippe Clement's Rangers. We remember when he first came in, sat in the blue room, and he outlined his 4 pillars of the four aspects he wanted Rangers to be the best at.
Yeah,
they're certainly not the most entertaining. If you're going to add a fifth one in there, they just don't have that. They don't have that style about them. They don't look suited almost to domestic football. We have seen them in Malmo. If Josh was out there in the game on Thursday night, in certain European fixtures, they do look good. And the majority of domestic fixtures, they just don't have the style. I think they do have the players, but the way that this team's been set up, what they've been asked to do, it just doesn't hit the required levels for Rangers to be dominating games when they play domestically. That's not just dominating in terms of possession. Ironically, they don't even do that at times, but creating chances, scoring goals, having more afternoons like that Ross County game, that's just a huge outlier this season. Very, very other few times have they looked at scoring more than a couple of goals in a game, and that comes down to the manager. That comes down to the style. This side is set up to be boring to watch because that's just the way that Clement plays his football.
Yeah, it really is. There's not much to argue with regards to that. This point here, Joshua from Jake, he says that he puts on 2 right back, taps on 2 attackers, and we're the home team. The substitutions coming in for criticism there. Rangers, I wanted to raise this point as well because I wanted to see Giannis yesterday. Headkeeper says, why did Giannis not replace Bayrami? I get why he didn't start. Cannot fathom why he never came on. Rangers lacking a spark, creativity in the final third. Surely you bring on someone like Hadji just to get some bums off seats and try and create a little.
I was surprised that no changes in the front 3 arrived until 75 minutes because I'm sure we'll get on to Dessers because he scores another winning goal for Rangers, but I don't think that tells the whole story. But I thought it was a performance that, as you say, Derek, it needed something different. Because if you even think about, and I realise that's slightly cliche, and I realise that Clement isn't going to deviate from this structure, what he wants to do, because his belief is that long term it will prove beneficial. But if you consider the amount of games that Rangers are grinding out, Hibs at home, where Hibs actually I think created that better chances on that day. Dundee United away, Tannadice, that was narrow at the end. St Mirren at Ibrox recently, 2-1. And far from a vintage performance. I'm missing another game that they won by a 1-goal margin. Maybe Motherwell at Hampden. Rangers did create a lot in the first half, but by the second half they were not holding on. But again, they weren't in a comfortable position. And Clement's substitutions, taking off Tavernier again, putting Sterling into midfield. When he played well, and he wasn't injured, he was taken off. Obviously, there's an aspect of building up minutes, which you can understand, but I still think that if Sterling plays well at right back on Thursday, why not, even from the bench, play him at right back in midweek? Maybe, as Clement said, people don't know all the facts about how tired players are. But Danilo made 6 passes when he came on after, 75 minutes, and Dessers had actually only made 6 passes in the 75 minutes before.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, but then we're talking about this within a week where, as Chris said last night in the video, where would Rangers be without Dessers this week? Okay, bear with me. Scores the equalising goal in the semi-final. Scores the equalising goal in Greece. Scores a winning goal yesterday. There is an element of it though where it just doesn't tell the full story because this continual problem they have when they play Dessers up front on his own, and it's different if you have a winger who stays high on one side and can take the team forward. Rangers were really deep for a lot of the game when Hearts had the ball, and they can't get forward. One of the reasons that I think they can't create opportunities is because they don't spend enough time in the opposition's half, and that's maybe something that's difficult to show just in numbers alone. But anyone watching that game yesterday will have felt that fact that rarely did you think Rangers are in control of this game, either with the ball or without the ball. And Danilo, as we've discussed at length over the last couple of weeks, he can link the game in a way that Dessers can't, which then gives you options to get up the pitch that are not there when Dessers is there. So in one way, it feels harsh to criticise Dessers. I think we all said last week when he hadn't had a good afternoon against Motherwell, he will still score goals. You just need to keep rotating him to make it work for the team. And I was surprised, like you were saying, Derek, that we didn't even see Danilo get 45 minutes yesterday, especially because he hadn't played in midweek against Olympiacos.
Exactly.
By the time
or in the B team game, Joshua, you'd like to have thought if he was part of the Olympiacos European squad, he'd have played some minutes in that B team fixture with an eye on Sunday. But to get so little minutes was a big disappointment for me.
Yeah, and Rangers' shape has changed a little bit off the ball, and Raskin is one positive, and he's sitting behind the midfield, which I think is making them. They don't look as likely to be played through because, again, as we saw midweek, Raskin's picking off a lot of those attacks before they reach the box. But they then have committed another man kind of to the base of midfield and taking them away from the number 10 position. It's a team that doesn't have enough goals, and it's a midfield three that doesn't have enough goals in it. And as I keep coming back to, I just think this issue that we've spoken about all season and last season, because Dessers isn't a back-to-goal player, but also because he's playing on his own up there and he's not really playing with high and wide wingers, he just becomes so isolated and Rangers can't get up the pitch quick enough. Yeah,
I don't think the system suits him. Conor Barron's substitution certainly created a bit of a stushy amongst the fans. This is what the manager had to say when he was replaced by Dujon Sterling.
I understand fans are fans and they don't know all the facts. And they see Conor also, and he deserves that, as one of the symbols of this new squad, this new team. I spoke also with a lot of praise about him the last couple of weeks in that way, but it's also my job to manage him in a good way, that he don't get injuries, that he don't get overuse. So he was tired after a massive week with a lot of distance that he ran, a lot of duels that he did, long travel, everything. And we could put Dujon in the midfield to win the duels and then to go forward out of that. So I understand that fans don't understand every detail about that. And they want to see the best players of the last couple of weeks all the time on the pitch, but it's also my job to see that they can stay on the pitch. I think the fans would be more disappointed if he was injured at the end.
That's what Clement had to say, Chris, on that one. Listen, I get his argument there, but I know he never played tail end of last season much for Aberdeen, but the fans, as you touched on there, want to see the best players on the pitch. Can you see why the manager would come in for a bit of criticism for his substitutions like that and why he's not playing certain players?
I do understand the point that he's making, and if he feels that Barron is tired or is tiring and is not going to be able to contribute in the same way during those closing minutes, he's right to make that. He's right to make that change. So I do understand the point that he's trying to make. I think the thing of fans are only fans, that's not really going to win said fans over. I think it has to perhaps choose his words a bit more carefully. That's not the route to go down. Fans are they see
pretty much
that at that point stand as well. But the fans see what they can see. Just because they don't have all the data in front of them, or they don't have the iPad, doesn't mean to say that they can't see what's actually going on the pitch. They're quite entitled to have their opinion. So I don't agree with him on that, on how he answered it and how he phrased it. I do understand the point he's trying to make. I think it's more again, myself and Josh touched on this in the video last night. I think it's quite interesting that he was subject of that reaction. It's very, very rare that a Rangers manager gets that kind of reaction for a decision that he makes. And I think that tells you a lot about his standing amongst the fans right now. They clearly were not impressed with what they watched yesterday afternoon. Clearly weren't impressed with that decision. And for it to get such a big reaction, I think it says quite a lot about where he is in terms of his standing, what credit he has, if any, in the bank, and it feels like a long way back for the manager now. He has a lot of people to try and win over. He has a lot of doubters, a lot of critics. Can he win them back over? The only way he can do that, I think, is by winning every game between now and the next break, or between now and the end of the year, heading into the Old Firm game, and then winning the Old Firm game. Chances of that happening, if we were to take a straw poll right now, None. There's no way that Rangers will win every one of their fixtures in this next kind of section of them, and that's the problem that he's in. People are now at that stage of one decision gets that kind of reaction. One defeat, we know what the reaction is going to be. And when you're the Rangers manager and you find yourself in that position, I say it's a long way back. So I think you can almost extrapolate that reaction out. It wasn't just about Conor Barron. I think it's more about the manager and where he finds himself.
Yeah, I just don't get why people start the game. That shouldn't mean substitution when you pulled off after 51 minutes the other night there. I thought that was maybe with one eye keeping him fresh for Sunday, Joshua, but I mean, I don't understand why he never started the game. James Tavernier came back in. Let's be honest, had another poor game, didn't he?
Yeah, obviously kind of created the goal, and Clement was asked about it after, and again, paraphrasing, but he essentially said had some good attacking moments, but defensively, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but it could have been better, was what he said about Tavernier. But there's no doubt that the right-back position gives Clement an issue at the moment, and I agree with Chris yesterday that the reaction to Barron coming off was also just a reaction to the frustration of what people were watching on the pitch. And you can understand in isolation that Barron ran a lot, as we spoke about the day after the game, or the night of the game, Derek, away in Greece. He went through a lot of work, but it's the optics of it, isn't it? And it's the I agree with Chris that Clement's point maybe is fair enough, but maybe the way he puts it across didn't communicate that exactly. To get back to the right back position, the reason I think it presents Clement an issue is he's only taken Tavernier out of the firing line in the last week, and had he set this precedent from the start of the season of I'm going to rotate things, then it maybe takes a little bit of pressure off. At the moment, Tavernier isn't playing well. I still think he looks like someone who's carrying the kind of weight of the world on his shoulders at points. And I agree with you. I thought Sterling or Casemiro. Did I think that? Maybe actually I didn't. Maybe I thought that Tavernier would come back in for the league game. I don't understand
taking Sterling off the other night there when he was playing well.
Yeah. No, neither do I. And I can't remember if we tweeted out or spoke on the show, but said on Friday that there wasn't an injury, that it hadn't been the plan for Sterling to play a full 90 minutes. If he'd come off at 60 minutes, Derek, then I think that would have been more of an expected. There'd have been an expected reaction to that, because 60 minutes is, I don't know, feels like a better number to take a player off than after 51, especially when Sterling had been so good. Look, I thought Casemiro came in and played well in that position as well, didn't he? For me, he's the one, though, that you should be moving about into different areas, and you should continue playing Sterling at right back. I understand Clement probably thought yesterday, and this is a knock-on effect of Diomande starting on the left-hand side of the midfield, central midfield, with Tom Lawrence out. You maybe don't have much depth in the Rangers midfield that side, which is why you need Sterling's energy in there. But I think he did. I agree with you. He did enough, more than enough on Thursday night to merit a continued spot really at right back. And if he wasn't going to start, then certainly off the bench.
Yep, let's get to a few comments. The Bum Sweat Kids, first of all, says, Derek's got his mic at the middle aisle in Aldi. It's the Leaning Tower of Pisa mic at this moment in time, because it did fall off my desk at some point, but it still works, so hey-ho. I mean to get that fixed, but so those of you that are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and of course Instagram, then that is the reason why it is slightly wonky. Now, Cyril Dessers over the weekend, Chris, it's fair to say, that interview that Joshua had with him after the game in Greece blew up after some of his comments that he said to Joshua, where he said that if he scored, he was watching the Champions League last week, and some of the best strikers in the world were missing chances, and just jokingly said that if he was scoring 3 chances a game, he wouldn't be at Rangers, which I totally get what he says. It's something that we all say at the time, but I can understand some fans having a gripe with that, with a player coming out and saying it. However, 3 goals in as many games, all important goals as well. Cyril Dessers, the manager, called him an enigma yesterday post-match. He certainly is that. What can you say about Cyril Dessers? As Joshua touched on, 6 passes? Danilo had 6 passes or 6 touches, passes in the game. Still getting the goals at the moment, though, isn't he?
He is a very, very hard guy to sum up. I think we've spoken a lot about him over the course of his Rangers career, and I'm still not sure in all the hours that we've spent discussing him if we've actually got to the bottom of him yet. In theory, what he said last week in the mix zone to Josh, I can see where he's coming from. Again, I think he's right, but like the way that the manager ever in terms of what the manager said about the fans, there's a way of getting your point across, and that was perhaps a slightly clumsy way of saying it. In theory, he is right. If he was any better, he would be he'd be at a bigger club. His point is right, but there's ways and means of saying it. I think overall, I've made the point to Josh last night. He can be the cause of Rangers' problems and the solution to Rangers' problems. I've touched on it in terms of the style of the side. I don't think the way that Rangers operate gets the best out of Dessers. Josh has outlined previously. Rangers find it really hard to get up the pitch because they don't have that focal point in the attack. They don't have that player who can hold the ball up, who can hold defenders off, who can bring others into play, who can link the play sufficiently. Dessers, that's not his game. It's no surprise that he looks better in European games like he did the other night. But even when he does and he gets in behind, we know that he misses chances. That's just part of life as Cyril Dessers as he outlined it. But where would Rangers have been if it hadn't been for those goals over the last week? There's no one else in the squad that's a regular starter that you can rely on to get those goals. There's no guarantee that Danilo would do it. I've not seen if he's at that level in terms of scoring that number of goals. Like a man, nobody knows. Can't rely on him. You can't put that pressure on him. So Dessers is having to carry a lot of the burden, having to do a lot of the work, and scoring those goals, three goals, 3 competitions over the course of the last week, saved the manager's job. That's ultimately, if Rangers had fallen in each of those 3 games, there is no chance that Philippe Clement can continue as Rangers manager. Now, people maybe argue that he cannot continue regardless. That's a bigger point. That's another show. But Dessers, for the minute, judged solely on goals, he's doing his bit. When you judge him on other things, he's not. And I think that's what people are now having more focus on. You can't just say, well, at least he scored. Yes, he may have scored, but what else is he bringing to the party right now?
Josh, I've seen some people say he costs Rangers points and he wins Rangers points, and that's pretty much Cyril Dessers summed up. Yeah,
well, I think what Chris says there is spot on, because where would Rangers be without those 3 goals? Yes, but equally, where would the performances be if you did have a striker who could link play, get Rangers up the pitch, take pressure off the defence, spend more time in the opposition half? So I don't think he should be the primary target over the course of the last week. It's about using them well, not using them all the time, taking him off earlier in a game like yesterday, because he was obviously after his goal very ineffectual. We made this point yesterday, Chris, didn't we, after the game at Ibrox? But you see Derek against Olympiacos, when there's space and Dessers is facing the opposition goal, then he can link playing away because he can run behind, he can win a flick on, he can take the team up the pitch. When he's got his back to goal, I just think he rarely does. You rarely see him hold off a defender and roll them. And when the play is facing back towards his own goal, and listen, he's spoken about this before. He said he's a striker who's at his best when he's facing goal. And that's a difficulty that continually domestically the Rangers have been faced with. So I agree with that. I don't think he's the villain of the last week. I think the villain is the fact that again, domestically, the chance creation numbers just aren't good enough, as we've outlined earlier in the show. And if Clement isn't going to change his style, isn't going to change his overall structure, and listen, we have seen him tweak little things like bringing Raskin in at the base of midfield. I think that's been a positive, although he has been good. And I think Rangers looked better for having him there, although it's still a midfield that lacks a real attacking option.
Yeah.
Diomandé's going through a bit of a difficult spell, I think is fair to say. I thought Bayrami was positive in the first half and really slowed up in the second half. I thought Cherney had a poor game overall. Still a front three that lacks pace, isn't it? Still a front three that lacks someone to connect.
Joshua, Bayrami's been here a while now. When are we going to see him in the number 10 position? Like, it's getting, come on.
Yeah, well, the issue is at the moment, you see the first goal, I think that's that should be how it works with him from the left. And he's spoken about this before. He rotates inside so he can arrive into those spaces. He's not stuck out in the left wing. When the game goes end to end, although we've seen him play quite a few good crossfield passes to Cherney and whatnot, Derek, you're right. He's not then. He's playing wide too much. The difficulty is who plays there. Then the question is, okay, do you change your shape? Do you change your structure somewhat? I think this midfield three at the moment, you see if you had, for argument's sake, Barron, who I think his energy higher up the pitch has been beneficial. Raskin is the number 6. He's definitely Rangers' best number 6. And then you had Bayrami on the left as that kind of left-sided number 8. That probably gives you a good balance. It gives you enough creativity going forward with the legs of Raskin and Barron. You need one of Cortez or Matondo to be back fit for that, though, unless Clement's going to try someone like Hamza Igaman out the left, which he hasn't done so far. But it's definitely a team that lacks pace. But then equally on the right-hand side, Cherney, would it maybe help him? And I know this would change the structure of the team somewhat, but would it maybe help him if Dujon Sterling is next to him, because he's got the legs to get up and down and overlap and create the space that Cherney needs to move inside. So not new discussions we're having, I realise, but anyway.
Yeah, of course, we're now heading into an international break, so a couple of weeks of not sitting through that, which is, I know some fans are quite pleased about. A differing view, Bob says, we have a huge amount of games coming up. Fans need to remember that and stop moaning. So, that's a different viewpoint to some this morning after watching that at Ibrox yesterday. Right, we'll wrap up there. A big thank you to Joshua and to Chris. Despite it being yet another international break, there seems to be more and more of these each passing season. We'll still keep you inundated with all the Rangers content and news, folks. Keep your eyes peeled on the website and on the YouTube channel for loads of stuff over the next fortnight. If you haven't subscribed as well, if you watch the show in the morning, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You won't miss a video when we go live. Right. Thank you to Chris and to Joshua. Thank you to you all for tuning in as ever, and we'll speak to you later on. Bye for now.